The Grand Council chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal and flowing light. Representatives from 11 species sat in their designated sections, each area designed for their specific biology. The crystalline Valorians occupied the upper tiers, where light refracted through their bodies in rainbow patterns. The Nurim floated in their telepathic clusters, their thoughts visible as gentle pulses of blue energy. The massive Koltha required reinforced platforms that could support their mineral-based bodies. Ambassador Hyan stood at the central speaking platform, a small figure in simple gray diplomatic attire. His presentation had been running for 20 minutes. Behind him, holographic displays showed troop movements, tactical analyses, and threat assessments. All of it pointed to one conclusion: the Void Collective was coming. And they were coming soon. The pattern is clear, Hyan said, his voice steady despite the weight of thousands of eyes. Sensors and telepathic focuses directed at him. 17 scout incursions in the past year, each one probing deeper into Council space, each one testing our response times. They're learning our weaknesses. Council Speaker Velthara's crystalline form chimed softly, the sound translating through the chamber systems into words. Ambassador Hyan, humanity has been a council member for 150 years. While we appreciate your enthusiasm, perhaps you lack the perspective that comes with millennia of galactic governance. Hyan's jaw tightened slightly, but his voice remained calm. With respect, Speaker, perspective requires acknowledging present threats, not just past experiences. A ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the Nurim cluster. One of the Koltha representatives, a being named Throm, whose body resembled a walking mountain, spoke in deep, rumbling tones. The younger species always sees danger everywhere. It is the nature of those who have not yet evolved past their primitive fears. Our proposal is simple, Hyan continued, refusing to be sidetracked. Joint military task forces, coordinated response protocols, shared intelligence networks. If the Void attacks, we need to be ready to respond as one unified force, not 11 separate species trying to reach consensus. Military task forces, Velthara repeated, her tone suggesting she was discussing something distasteful. Under whose command, Ambassador? Surely you're not suggesting that humanity, with its mere 15 decades of council membership, should lead such an endeavor? I'm suggesting that those with the most current military experience should have significant input, Hyan replied. Human forces have been handling border security in 7 sectors. We've been responding to pirate activity, territorial disputes, and yes, the Void Scout incursions. We know what we're facing. A Nurim voice echoed telepathically through the chamber, translated for those without telepathic capability. That is precisely the problem, Ambassador. Humanity fights. Your species has been in 43 armed conflicts since joining the Council. You solve problems with violence because you do not know another way. Hyan felt heat rise in his chest, but kept his expression neutral. We've been handling problems that others chose not to address. The Krau uprising 3 years ago? An unfortunate incident, Velthara interrupted, which could have been resolved through proper diplomatic channels if human marines hadn't stormed the Krau stations. The Krau were executing hostages, Hyan said flatly. 1 every hour. Diplomacy takes time. Those hostages didn't have time. And this is why humanity remains immature, Throm rumbled. You act on emotion, on instinct. The elder species have learned patience. We have learned wisdom. We do not rush to violence at every provocation. Hyan looked around the chamber. Thousands of years of combined experience sat before him. Species that had mastered faster than light travel when humans were still figuring out agriculture. Civilizations that had cured every disease, eliminated poverty, achieved post-scarcity economies. They were right about so much, but they were wrong about this. I'm not asking you to become warriors, Hyan said quietly. "I'm asking you to let us protect you. Because the void is coming, and when they arrive, all the wisdom and patience in the galaxy won't stop them from consuming everything we've built." The chamber fell silent for a long moment. Then Velthara's crystalline form pulsed with light. "The Council will vote on humanity's proposal." The vote took less than 5 minutes. The result was displayed across every screen in the chamber. Proposal rejected, 9-1, with 1 abstention. Only humanity had voted in favor of their own proposal, but Velea wasn't finished. Furthermore, the Council has determined that humanity's aggressive tendencies and unilateral military actions represent a destabilizing influence. Effective immediately, humanity's seat on the Military Coordination Council is revoked. Humans will be granted observational status only. You may watch, you may advise if asked, but you will not make decisions regarding military matters. Hyan stood frozen. Observational status. They were being demoted, marginalized, treated like children who couldn't be trusted with adult responsibilities. "This is a mistake," he said, his voice harder now. "You're making a terrible mistake." "We have made our decision," Velthara replied. "This council has maintained galactic peace for 10,000 years. We do not need lectures from a species that still fights wars on its own homeworld." Hyan looked at her for a long moment. Then he straightened his uniform, gathered his presentation materials, and turned to leave. As he walked toward the exit, he activated his comm unit. "Ambassador Hyan to Prime Coordinator Taiyang. Urgent communication required." 12 hours later, Captain Gina stood on the bridge of the human flagship Indomitable, watching the same vote play back on her personal display. Around her, the bridge crew worked in focused silence. They'd all seen it. They all knew what it meant. "Captain," her first officer said quietly, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. It's the Prime Coordinator." Gina accepted the transmission. Taiyang's face appeared on her screen, and she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. He was standing in his office, overlooking New Seoul, the city lights glittering behind him in the evening darkness. "Captain Gina," Taiyang said, "you and every human ship commander are to receive the following orders. Effective immediately, all human vessels are to cease Council operations. Withdraw from all joint patrols. Disengage from all Council facilities. Return to human-controlled space." Gina felt something cold settle in her stomach. "Sir, are we leaving the Council?" "We're not leaving," Taiyang replied. "We're already gone. Formal notice has been submitted. Every human diplomat, researcher, military officer, and civilian worker in Council space is being recalled. The withdrawal is total and immediate. Sir, if we pull out, the border sectors will be the Council's problem," Taiyang finished. "They've made it very clear that they don't want our input on military matters. So we're giving them exactly what they asked for. They can handle their own security now." Gina understood. It wasn't about anger. It wasn't about revenge. It was about respect. The Council had made their position clear. Humanity wasn't trusted, wasn't valued, wasn't needed. "Time to show them what they're losing," she said quietly. Taiyang nodded. "Begin the withdrawal, Captain, and make it professional. No complaints, no arguments, no drama. We simply ... leave. Let them figure out what happens next." The transmission ended. Gina turned to her crew. "You heard the Prime Coordinator. Plot a course for Earth and send word to all human vessels in this sector. We're going home." As the Indomitable turned away from its patrol route, Gina looked back at the Council space she was leaving behind. Somewhere out there, the Void Collective was preparing. Somewhere out there, the Council was celebrating their wisdom in controlling humanity's aggressive tendencies. They would learn soon enough. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you dismissed the only people who still remembered how to fight. The first month passed, quietly. Too quietly. Merchant Captain Young-ho sat in his ship's command chair, reviewing the final closure protocols for the Nexus passage route. His vessel, the trade hauler Morning Star, had been running this route for 8 years. 3 times a week, back and forth through the dangerous asteroid fields and gravitational anomalies that made the passage so difficult to navigate. "Captain," his navigator said, "the beacon network is shutting down. Last one goes offline in 10 minutes. Young-ho nodded. The beacons had been his idea originally. Small navigation satellites positioned at critical points throughout the passage, constantly updating safe routes through the shifting hazards. It had taken 2 years to map and deploy them. The Council had been happy to use the route. It cut shipping times by 40% across 3 sectors, but they'd never contributed to maintaining it. Human work, human time, human resources. "Shut them all down," Young-ho ordered, "and delete the navigation data from the public networks." His navigator hesitated. "Sir, there are probably a dozen ships in the passage right now. If we shut down without warning, we posted warnings 3 weeks ago," Young-ho said. "Multiple languages, multiple channels. Everyone knew this was coming. Any ship still in the passage has had plenty of time to get out." The beacons went dark. The Nexus passage, which had been a bustling trade route carrying 30% of the sector's commerce, was now just another dangerous region of space that most ships couldn't navigate safely. The Council would find another route eventually, or they'd learn to navigate the passage themselves. Either way, it wasn't humanity's problem anymore. Young-ho set course for Earth and didn't look back. Dr. Hannah packed the last of her research materials into sealed containers. Around her, the Council Medical Research Facility on Station Helix 9 was in chaos. 37 human researchers were leaving, and the remaining staff was beginning to understand what that meant. A Valorian researcher named Kitamura approached her, light refracting anxiously through his crystalline body. "Dr. Hannah, please reconsider. The Crimson Plague research is at a critical stage. We're so close to a cure." Hannah sealed the container and looked at him. Kitamura was a good researcher. Methodical, thorough, brilliant at analyzing data patterns. They'd worked together for 5 years. "You'll continue the research," she said gently. "You have all the data, all the equipment, all the funding. But we don't have the intuition," Kitamura said, his voice tinged with something that might have been desperation. "The way you humans approach problems, making leaps, trying unlikely combinations, following hunches, we can't do that. Our thought processes are too structured." "Then you'll learn," Hannah replied. "Or you'll find another way. But I have my orders, and frankly, Kitamura, I'm tired of being told that my species is too impulsive and emotional, while simultaneously being expected to solve all the problems that require actual creativity." She picked up her containers and headed for the docking bay. Behind her, she heard Kitamura trying to reorganize the remaining research team. They'd keep working, she knew. They'd follow proper protocols, run controlled experiments, document everything meticulously. But the breakthrough moments, the wild ideas at 3 in the morning, the experiments that shouldn't work but did, the connections that seemed insane until they proved brilliant, those would stop. The Valorians didn't have that kind of creativity. Neither did the Nurim or the Kolther or any of the other elder species. They'd evolved past it, they claimed, refined it away in favor of logical, methodical thinking. Hannah wondered how long it would take them to realize they'd refined away the very thing that drove innovation. Commander Sang-hoon stood at attention as the last transport lifted off from the border colony on. Persis 7, 2,000 human peacekeepers, gone. The colony's local government had gathered to watch. their expressions confused and worried. A Colthar administrator named Vaughn approached him. "Commander, who will handle security now? The border raiders have been quiet only because of your patrols." "You will," Sang-hoon replied simply. "You have weapons. You have defensive systems. You have warning networks. All Council provided, all functional. But we don't know how to fight," Vaughn said, his massive stone-like body shifting with agitation. "My species hasn't fought a war in 600 years. We don't have soldiers. We have administrators and engineers and artists." Sang-hoon looked at him steadily. "Then I suggest you learn quickly, or hire mercenaries, or petition the Council for protection. Those are your options now." "The Council has no military forces," Vaughn said desperately. They relied on humans," Sang-hoon finished. "Yes, we know. But the Council has made it clear that our military presence is unwelcome. So we're leaving." This is what they wanted. He boarded the transport without another word. As it lifted off, he looked down at the colony. Good people down there. Peaceful, productive, creative people who'd never hurt anyone. They were also completely defenseless. And they'd never realized it because humans had been quietly standing guard for so long that everyone had forgotten guards were necessary. Minji sat in her small apartment on Council Central Station, staring at the data on her screen. Her Valorian colleague, a researcher named Thelkara, sat across from her, having just spent 20 minutes begging her to stay. "You're only 2%, Thelkara said again. "Humans make up only 2% of Council personnel. Surely losing such a small fraction won't significantly impact operations." Minji pulled up the analysis she'd run the night before. "Let me show you something." The data appeared on the shared display. Humans are 2% of total personnel, but we handle 47% of critical infrastructure maintenance. The systems that keep stations running, that maintain life support, that prevent catastrophic failures. We do that. She pulled up another chart. 68% of emergency response. When something goes wrong, fires, hull breaches, medical crisis, humans are the ones who respond. Because we train for emergencies. Because we're good at making fast decisions under pressure. Another chart. 89% of military operations. There aren't many conflicts anymore, but when they happen, humans handle them. The Council species provide logistics and support, but humans do the actual fighting. A final chart. And 91% of what the Council classifies as impossible problem resolution. The stuff that doesn't fit normal procedures. The crises that require creative thinking. The situations where following established protocols doesn't work. Thelkara stared at the data. I didn't realize." "Nobody did," Minji said. "Because we didn't make a big deal about it. We just did the work. And now we're stopping. But why?" Thelkara asked. "Is it pride? Are you angry about the vote?" Minji shook her head. "It's not about anger. It's about respect. The Council doesn't value what we bring. They see us as aggressive children who need to be controlled. So fine, we'll step back and let them handle things themselves. Maybe then they'll understand what we were actually doing all along." She stood up and began packing her personal items. "I'll miss working with you, Thelkara. You're a good person. But I can't stay somewhere that doesn't want me." Over the next 2 months, the effects spread like ripples across the galaxy. Trade routes slowed or closed entirely. Research projects stalled. Security incidents increased. Small problems that would have been solved quickly started accumulating, growing into larger issues. The Council convened committees to address each problem. Committees formed subcommittees. Reports were written. Procedures were established. Everything was done properly, methodically, by the book, but the problems kept growing. On Earth, Prime Coordinator Taiyang sat in his office reading the reports. The council was struggling, exactly as he'd predicted. But he felt no satisfaction, only a deep sadness that it shouldn't have come to this. Humanity had tried to help. They'd offered their expertise, their protection, their partnership. And the council had rejected it all because humans didn't fit their idea of what an advanced species should be. Now, the galaxy was learning a hard lesson. Advancement wasn't just about technology or longevity or refined culture. Sometimes survival required the ability to adapt, to fight, to solve problems that didn't have neat solutions. Humanity had those abilities. They tried to share them. The council had said no. Taiyang opened a secure channel to Admiral Doyan at Lunar Command. "Admiral, status report on the defensive perimeter?" "All human space is secure, sir," Doyan replied. "Our borders are locked down. Nothing gets in or out without our permission." "And the void?" "Long-range sensors are tracking increased activity. They're massing forces, just like we predicted. Estimate 3 months before they're ready to attack Council space." Taiyang nodded slowly. "And when they do, the Council will realize exactly what they've lost." "Will we help them, sir?" Daojun asked. Taiyang was quiet for a long moment. "That depends on them. We tried to help on their terms. They refused. If they want our help now, it will be on our terms." He closed the transmission and looked out at Earth, beautiful and blue in the darkness of space. Humanity had walked away from the Council peacefully. No threats. No ultimatums. Just a simple withdrawal. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the scariest thing wasn't what someone did when angry. It was what they didn't do when dismissed. The Void Collective arrived on a Tuesday. Their fleet emerged from dark space at the edge of Council territory, exactly where humanity's intelligence reports had predicted. 300 ships, each one a massive biological construct that looked more like a diseased organ than a vessel. They didn't communicate. They didn't issue warnings. They simply began moving toward the nearest inhabited worlds. On Council Central Station, alarms screamed. Speaker Velfara convened an emergency session within the hour. Representatives from all 11 species gathered in the Grand Council chamber, their earlier calm replaced with barely controlled panic. "The Void has attacked 7 Outer Rim colonies," Velfara announced, her crystalline form pulsing erratically. "Casualties are in the hundreds of thousands and rising. We must formulate a response immediately." "What about the defense fleets?" asked a Nurim representative. "Surely our ships can repel them?" The Council's military coordinator, a Valorian named Shektar, materialized a tactical display. "Our fleets are engaging, but we're sustaining heavy losses. The Void ships are highly resistant to our weapons. Their tactics are unpredictable, and they're adapting to our strategies in real time." "Then adapt faster," Thrawn rumbled. "Surely this is a solvable problem." "We're trying," Shektar said, his light flickering with stress. "But our commanders are requesting orders. They want to know what tactics to employ. They're waiting for strategic direction from this council." Velfara looked around the chamber. "Very well. We shall vote on tactical approaches. All in favor of defensive positioning around core worlds." "Speaker," Shektar interrupted, "the commanders need orders now. The battle is happening right now. Ships are being destroyed while we deliberate. Proper procedure must be followed," Velfara insisted. "We cannot make hasty decisions. That is what led to problems in the past." The vote took 40 minutes. By the time a tactical approach was approved and transmitted to the fleet, the Void had destroyed 12 Council ships and begun landing forces on 3 colony worlds. Admiral Doyun watched the disaster unfold from Earth's Lunar Command Center. His tactical display showed everything: the Void's movements, the Council's fumbling response, and mounting casualties. Earth's sensor network was the most advanced in known space. They could see the entire battlefield in perfect clarity. "Admiral," his second-in-command said quietly, "we could help. One battle group could turn that fight around." Do-Yun's jaw tightened. "We're not at war with the Void. The Council is. They made it very clear that they don't want our military involvement. Sir, people are dying." "Yes," Do-Yun said flatly. "They are. And the Council is learning a very expensive lesson about the difference between peace and helplessness." His comm station chirped. "Admiral, incoming message from Council space. It's marked urgent, and it's not official channel, sir. Looks like a personal transmission." Do-Yun accepted it. A young Nurim appeared on his screen. Yuna, he remembered. She'd been part of the Council's diplomatic corps, one of the few who'd actually befriended human personnel. "Admiral Do-Yun," Yuna said, her telepathic voice trembling with emotion. "Please, you have to help us. The Void is tearing through our defenses. We don't know how to stop them. We were wrong. We were so wrong about everything. Please, Earth, help us." Do-Yun looked at her for a long moment. "Miss Yuna, I suggest you direct that request to your Council leadership. They're the ones who make military decisions for your people. That was made very clear to us. They're paralyzed," Yuna said desperately. "They keep forming committees and calling votes while worlds burn. You tried to warn us. You tried to help. We should have listened." "Yes," Do-Yun agreed. "You should have, but you didn't. And now you're facing the consequences." He terminated the transmission. Around him, his command staff worked in focused silence. They were professionals. They understood duty. But he could see the tension in their shoulders, hear it in their voices. It went against every human instinct to watch people die when they had the power to help. But this wasn't about instinct. This was about respect. Prime Coordinator Taiyang's response came 2 hours later, transmitted on every major communication channel in Council space. He spoke from Earth, standing before the blue marble of humanity's homeworld. "The Council made its position clear 6 months ago," Taiyang said, his voice calm and cold. "Humanity is too aggressive, too young, too unstable to have authority in military matters. You stripped us of our military council seat. You told us to step back. So we did." He paused, letting that sink in. "Now you're under attack, and you want our help. But here's what you need to understand. We are not your emergency service. We are not the people you call when your decisions prove foolish. We are a sovereign species with our own interests, our own territory, and our own policies." Another pause. "The Council believed you could maintain galactic peace through wisdom and diplomacy. We hope you're right. Because humanity will defend humanity. The rest of you will need to defend yourselves." The transmission ended. The galaxy reeled. Not just from the Void attack, but from the realization that humanity wasn't coming to save them. For 10,000 years, the Council had maintained peace. For the last 150 years, humanity had quietly been the muscle behind that peace. Nobody had noticed because humans didn't brag about it. Now that muscle was gone, the Void pushed deeper into Council space. 3 core worlds came under attack. Velthara authorized the use of the Council's most powerful weapons, planet crackers, that hadn't been fired in 6,000 years. The weapons worked perfectly. They destroyed 2 Void ships. They also destroyed the colonies they were trying to protect. Millions of civilians dead because the Council had forgotten that defensive weapons required precision and skill, not just raw power. Thrawn led a Kolthar defense fleet to protect his species' homeworld. His ships were massive, heavily armored, and technologically advanced. But when the Void engaged them, his commanders froze. They sent requests for orders. Thrawn sent back tactical plans, but by the time the plans were distributed and implemented, the battle had changed. The Void adapted. The Kolther fleet was destroyed. Thrawn survived, but his homeworld didn't. 4 billion Kolther died in 3 days. The Nurim tried to fight using their telepathic abilities, linking their minds to coordinate perfectly. It should have been an unbeatable advantage, perfect communication, perfect unity. But the Void had no minds to read, no thoughts to sense. They were biological machines, operating on instinct and programming. The Nurim's greatest strength was useless. World after world fell. The Council kept meeting, kept voting, kept trying to find consensus. But warfare didn't wait for consensus. It required fast decisions, individual initiative, and the willingness to take risks. The elder species had evolved past such things. They'd built a civilization based on careful thought and collective decision-making. It had worked beautifully for 10,000 years of peace. It was completely useless in war. On Earth, Captain Gina received reports of a Void scout force probing human space. They'd crossed into the outer territories, testing the defenses. "Battle stations," she ordered calmly. "All ships to intercept formation. Weapons free. Rules of engagement. Any Void vessel in human space is a hostile target. No warnings, no negotiations. Destroy on sight." The Void scouts met humanity's defense fleet near the Saturn orbital stations. The battle lasted 8 minutes. Every Void ship was destroyed. Human casualties. 0. The Void tried again, this time with a larger force. 30 ships instead of 3. The result was the same. Humanity had been preparing for this war, while the Council was still debating whether it would happen. Human weapons were designed specifically to counter Void biology. Human tactics were built around speed and aggression. Human commanders didn't need permission to make decisions. They just fought, and they won. Word spread through Council space. The Void couldn't penetrate human territory. They'd tried multiple times. Every time, they were annihilated. Meanwhile, Council worlds continued to fall. Elthara sat alone in her private chamber, reviewing casualty reports. 14 worlds lost. Trillions dead. The Council was collapsing, and she'd finally admitted to herself why. They'd forgotten how to fight. More than that, they'd evolved to believe that fighting was primitive, that violence was beneath them. They'd built a culture that valued discussion over action, consensus over initiative. It had made them wise. It had made them advanced. It had made them peaceful. It had also made them weak. She pulled up historical records, searching for something she'd dismissed before. Data on human involvement in galactic crises over the past 150 years. As she reviewed the files, a pattern emerged that made her light dim with shame. The Krau uprising, resolved by human Marines. The station's Sigma reactor failure fixed by human engineers. The plague of worlds cured by human doctors. The dimensional rift crisis solved by human physicists. 43 other incidents, all resolved by humans. The galaxy had been running on human problem-solving for over a century. The Council had provided resources and oversight, but humans had provided solutions. Real, practical, messy solutions that didn't wait for committees or votes. And when the Council had finally rejected human input, all those solutions stopped. Velthara realized the truth. The Council hadn't been leading the galaxy. They'd been riding on humanity's backs while pretending to be in charge. And when they'd kicked humanity aside, they discovered they couldn't actually walk on their own. The question now was whether they could learn to walk before the Void consumed them all. The Council delegation arrived at Earth 3 weeks after the first Void attack. 5 ships carrying representatives from each of the elder species, along, with enough gifts and treasures to buy a small solar system. They requested an audience with Prime Coordinator Taiyang. They had to wait 4 days, not because Taiyang was being petty. Earth's government was genuinely busy coordinating the defense of human space. managing refugee camps for the few non-human, civilians who'd made it to human territory, and planning for the possibility that the void might eventually break through. But the wait gave the delegates time to see. Earth. They saw the massive defense platforms orbiting every major population center. They saw ships being built in orbital factories at a pace that shouldn't be possible. They saw training facilities where humans practiced combat drills with an intensity that looked almost religious. They saw a civilization that had never stopped preparing for war, even during peacetime. Velthara found it disturbing. The Nurum representative called it primitive. Throm, who'd lost his homeworld, said nothing. When they finally met with Tai Yang, he received them in a simple conference room. No grand chambers, no crystal and light, just a plain room with a table and chairs. Designed for multiple species. Speaker Velthara, Tai Yang said with a slight nod. What can I do for you? Velthara had prepared a speech. She'd practiced it with the other delegates. It was dignified and formal, acknowledging past disagreements while proposing future cooperation. But when she looked at Tai Yang's calm, tired face, the prepared words felt hollow. We were wrong, she said simply. About everything. We need your help. Tai Yang sat back in his chair. I'm listening. The void has taken 23 worlds, Velthara continued. Our casualties number in the trillions. Our military forces are in disarray. Our leaders are paralyzed by indecision. We're losing this war, and we don't know how to win it. And you want humanity to save you, Tai Yang said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Throm rumbled, speaking for the first time. We come with formal apologies from the Council. We were arrogant. We underestimated your species. We failed to recognize the value of what you offered. We're asking you to put aside our past mistakes and help us survive. Tai Yang looked at each delegate in turn. What exactly are you offering in exchange for this help? Velthara's light brightened hopefully. We're prepared to restore your military council seat immediately. Full voting rights. Equal authority with all elder species. We already withdrew from the council entirely, Tai Yang replied. We don't want a seat at a table that doesn't respect us. Then we'll give you access to our technology archives, the Nurum representative offered. Scientific data going back 50,000 years. Medical advances. Engineering techniques. Everything we know. We've already surpassed most of your technology in relevant fields, Tai Yang said. We had to. We couldn't rely on you to share it when we needed it. Trade agreements, then, Velthara tried. Exclusive access to council markets. Preferential trading status. We've developed self-sufficient supply chains across human space, Tai Yang said. We don't need your markets. What about credits? Another delegate suggested desperately. We can offer significant financial compensation. Enough to fund your civilization for centuries. Tai Yang shook his head. We're not interested in your currency. Velthara's crystalline form dimmed with despair. Then what do you want? Name your price. We're dying out here. Entire species are facing extinction. What will it take for you to help us? Tai Yang was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft but firm. I want you to understand what you threw away. He pulled up a holographic display. For 150 years, humanity tried to be good council members. We followed your rules. We respected your procedures. We contributed our skills and expertise. And every single time, we were treated like violent children who needed to be controlled. The display showed incident after incident. Human peacekeepers saving colonies, then being reprimanded for excessive force. Human researchers making breakthroughs, then being told their methods were too chaotic. Human engineers fixing critical systems, then being lectured about proper protocols. You used us, Tai Yang continued. You benefited from our work while simultaneously looking down on us. And when we tried to warn you about a real threat, you didn't just ignore us. You punished us. You stripped away our authority and told us we weren't fit to have a voice in our own defense. We were wrong, Velthara said again. We admit that. We're admitting it now, publicly, and we're begging for your forgiveness. I don't want your apology, Tai Yang said, his voice harder now. I want you to understand why you were wrong. Because if you don't understand, then nothing changes. You'll just repeat the same mistakes with whoever helps you next. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at Earth below. Do you know what humanity's greatest advantage is? It's not our technology. It's not our numbers. It's that we remember how to struggle. He turned back to face them. You're all elder species. You've had thousands of years of peace and prosperity. You've solved every major problem your civilizations faced. You eliminated disease, poverty, conflict. You evolved past violence. You built paradise. Tai Yang's expression was sad. But in doing so, you forgot what it takes to survive when paradise ends. You forgot how to make hard choices. You forgot how to act without consensus. You forgot how to fight. A human woman entered the conference room, carrying a datapad. Tai Yang introduced her. This is Nari. She's a civilian engineer. Nari, could you explain to our guests why human problem-solving is different from council approaches? Nari looked uncomfortable being put on the spot, but she nodded. It's about how we think, I guess. The elder species are really good at methodical problem-solving. You identify a problem, research it thoroughly, develop a solution, test it extensively, implement it carefully. It's efficient and reliable. But, Tai Yang prompted. But it's slow, Nari continued. And it doesn't work well for novel problems or crisis situations. Humans are good at lateral thinking. We try weird solutions. We make intuitive leaps. We embrace failure as a learning tool. It's messy and chaotic, but it's fast and creative. She pulled up her own display, showing a comparison. When the station's Sigma reactor was failing, Council engineers spent 6 hours running diagnostics and modeling solutions. Human engineers spent 15 minutes trying random ideas until one worked. Was our approach elegant? No. Did it save everyone on that station? Yes. You evolved past that kind of thinking, Tai Yang said to the delegates. You refined it away because it seemed primitive. But evolution doesn't always mean improvement. Sometimes it means specialization. And specialization means losing abilities you might need later. Throm shifted his massive body. You're saying we're too evolved, too advanced, that our sophistication has made us weak. I'm saying you're adapted for peace, not war, Tai Yang replied. There's no shame in that. Peace is good. But when war comes, you need people who never forgot how to fight. That's us. That's always been us. Velthara's light pulsed slowly. So what happens now? You've made your point. We understand our mistake. Will you let us die to teach us a lesson? No, Tai Yang said. Because despite everything, we're not cruel. We'll help you, but not on the terms you're offering. He returned to the table and pulled up a contract. Humanity will provide military protection for all Council species. We'll defend your worlds. We'll fight the void. We'll save your civilizations. Relief flooded through the delegates' expressions. But Tai Yang wasn't finished. In exchange, humanity assumes full control of all military operations across Council space. Not a Council seat. Not equal authority. Full control. When we say jump, you don't vote on it. You jump. When we say we need resources, you don't form committees. You provide them. When we make tactical decisions, you don't question them. You follow them, The room went very quiet. "You're asking us to surrender our sovereignty," Velthara said slowly. "I'm asking you to acknowledge reality," Tai Yang countered. "You can't defend yourselves. You've proven that. So either you accept our protection on our terms, or you keep trying to handle this yourselves. Your choice." The Nurim representative spoke up. This would make us subordinate to humanity. We're elder species. We're supposed to be guiding the younger races, not serving them." "That's your pride talking," Tai Yang said. "And pride won't stop the void from consuming your worlds. You need to decide what matters more, your dignity or your survival." Thrawn stood up, his massive form towering over the table. For a moment, the human guards in the room tensed. Then Thrawn bowed, a gesture of deep respect in Kolthar culture. "I accept your terms," he said. "My species has already paid the price of arrogance. I will not let pride kill more of my people. If human leadership saves even one more Kolthar world, then I will gladly serve under that leadership." The other delegates looked at each other. Slowly, reluctantly, they each nodded their agreement. "We'll need formal authorization from your respective governments," Tai Yang said. "And understand this, once you agree, we're in charge. Completely. If that changes, if you try to reassert control or override our decisions, we walk away permanently." "We understand," Velthara said quietly. "When can you begin?" Tai Yang activated his calm. "Admiral Do Yun, you're cleared to engage. Show them what humanity does best." The war was about to change. The galaxy would learn that sometimes the scariest species wasn't the one that wanted to conquer you. It was the one that knew how to save you, but chose not to until you finally understood what you'd lost when you pushed them away. 1 year after humanity walked away from the Council, the galaxy looked completely different. Admiral Gina stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, now flagship of the Combined Defense Fleet. Around her vessel, 300 ships from 7 different species moved in perfect formation. Perfect not because they wanted to, but because human commanders had drilled them relentlessly until they learned how. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "the Void main fleet is dropping out of dark space. Estimated strength, 600 vessels. They're heading for the Valorian core worlds." Gina studied the display calmly. This was the moment they'd been preparing for. The Void had been testing Council defenses for months, probing for weaknesses. Now they were committing their full force to what they thought would be an easy victory. They were about to learn otherwise. "All ships, battle formation Delta 7, Gina ordered. Human vessels take point. Council support ships maintain firing positions. Engage when in range. Rules of engagement. Total destruction. No mercy. No retreat." The orders transmitted across the fleet without delay. No votes, no committees. Just immediate action. That was the first thing humanity had taught the Council species in combat. Democracy was suicide. Commander Sang-hoon led the fighter wing personally, his squadron of 50 craft diving toward the Void fleet like eagles hunting prey. Behind him, Kolthar heavy cruisers moved into bombardment positions. Valorian ships, fragile but equipped with devastating energy weapons, hung back in sniper positions. Nurim vessels coordinated communications and sensors. Their telepathic networks, now integrated into human tactical systems, the Void fleet crashed into humanity's defense line, like a wave hitting a wall. What followed wasn't a battle. It was an execution. Human weapons, designed specifically to counter Void biology, tore through their organic armor. Human tactics, built around speed and aggression, gave the Void no time to adapt. Human commanders, operating with complete autonomy, made decisions faster than the Void could respond, and the Council species, following human leadership without question. fought with an efficiency they'd never shown before. Sang-hoon's fighters wove through the void formation, targeting propulsion systems and command nodes. Behind them, Kolther ships unleashed kinetic barrages that shattered void vessels like glass. Valorian energy beams, coordinated by human targeting systems, struck with surgical precision. The void tried to adapt. They always did. But humanity had spent the past year studying every engagement, cataloging every tactic, preparing for every contingency. For every adaptation the void made, humans had 3 counters ready. 6 hours later, the battle was over. The void fleet was destroyed. Every single vessel. Human casualties numbered in the hundreds. Council casualties were higher, but still minimal compared to their previous battles. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity demonstrated what professional military force actually looked like back on Earth. Prime Coordinator Tai Yang received the battle reports in his office. 600 void ships destroyed. The largest void fleet ever assembled, annihilated in a single engagement. It was the turning point they'd needed, but Tai Yang felt no triumph. Only exhaustion. His door opened, and Ambassador Jinwu entered, carrying another stack of reports. Sir, we're getting requests from 15 more council species asking for human protection. They're all offering resources, territory, political concessions. They're desperate. Accept the resources, Tai Yang said. Reject the territory. We're not building an empire. We're providing security. Some of our own people are saying we should take the territory, Jinwu noted carefully. They're saying we've earned it, that the council species owe us. Tai Yang shook his head. That's how you become the villain. We didn't do this to conquer. We did it because it needed to be done. The moment we start taking territory, we become just another aggressive species trying to dominate the galaxy. He stood and walked to his window, looking out at the city below. Besides, we don't need to conquer them. They're already dependent on us. Every defense fleet, every security operation, every rapid response team, it's all commanded by humans. The council species provide the ships and resources, but we provide the capability. They can't fight without us anymore. Is that better or worse than conquest? Jinwu asked quietly. I don't know, Tai Yang admitted, but it's what we've got. On a Valorian colony world, Dr. Hana worked alongside her old colleague Katamora in a medical facility. The Crimson Plague research had restarted when humanity returned, and they'd made more progress in 3 months than the Valorians had made in the previous year. I still don't understand how you do it, Katamora said. Watching Hana combine 3 unrelated compounds in a way that violated every safety protocol. That mixture should be inert at best, toxic at worst. The mixture turned bright blue and began generating heat. Hana smiled. It's working. Look at the molecular structure. Katamora examined the results, his crystalline body flashing with surprise. That's the key bonding agent we've been searching for. How did you know? I didn't, Hana admitted. I just had a hunch. Sometimes you have to try things that shouldn't work, because sometimes they do. It was a lesson the council species were learning across every field. Human engineers fixed problems by trying random solutions until something worked. Human tacticians won battles by making unpredictable decisions. Human researchers made breakthroughs by following intuitions that had no logical basis. It was messy. It was chaotic. It was inefficient. It was also incredibly effective. Captain Young-ho was back running the Nexus Passage route, but now with a difference. His ship led a convoy of 20 vessels, 15 council ships, following his navigation. The council species still couldn't navigate the passage themselves. They were too precise, too methodical. They needed the human ability to make split-second adjustments based on instinct and experience. Captain, his navigator said. "The Coulter ship in position 7 is requesting course correction. They're uncomfortable with our proximity to the asteroid cluster." "Tell them to trust the navigation," Young-Ho replied. "We've run this route 1,000 times. The asteroids look closer than they are." The message was relayed. The Coulter ship adjusted its position to match the convoy. No argument. No committee. Just trust in human expertise. That was the new reality. The Council species had learned that questioning human decisions in critical moments led to disaster. So they'd stopped questioning. They simply followed. Young-Ho wasn't sure how he felt about that. It was better than being dismissed and underestimated. But it was also strange to have species thousands of years older than humanity looking to humans for guidance on everything. 10 years after humanity walked away, the galaxy had achieved a new stability. The Void Collective had been pushed back to the outer rim, their expansion halted by human military might. Council space was secure. Trade flowed freely. Research progressed rapidly, but everyone understood the truth beneath the surface. Ambassador Yuna, now trained in human diplomatic methods, sat in a conference room with representatives from 4 council species. They were discussing resource allocation for a new defense station. "The Human Military Command has requested 17% more resources than initially budgeted," she explained. "Given current threat assessments, I recommend approval." 10 years ago, that statement would have sparked hours of debate. Questions about necessity, concerns about human expansion, demands for detailed justification. Now, the vote was unanimous approval, taken in under 3 minutes. After the meeting, a young Nurum diplomat approached Yuna. "Don't you find it concerning? How quickly we defer to human judgment now. We barely discuss things anymore. We just accept their requests." Yuna looked at him thoughtfully. "Do you remember the Void War? Before humans took command?" "I was young, but yes. It was chaos. We lost 23 worlds in 2 months," Yuna said. "Trillions died. Our civilization was collapsing. Now we've had 10 years of security and prosperity. Yes, we defer to human judgment, but their judgment keeps us alive." "But we're not equal anymore," the young Norum insisted. "We're clients, dependents. The elder species are supposed to lead the galaxy, not follow younger races." "The elder species almost got us all killed," Yuna replied. "I was there. I watched our leaders debate while worlds burned. The humans tried to warn us, tried to help us, and we rejected them because of pride. Because we couldn't accept that sometimes the young know things the old have forgotten." She placed a gentle telepathic touch on the young diplomat's mind. "You ask if it's concerning that we follow human leadership. I ask, what's the alternative? Can you fight the void? Can you make the split-second decisions that keep our borders secure? Can you adapt and innovate at the pace required to survive in this galaxy?" The young Nurim was silent. "Neither can I," Yuna continued. "Neither can any of our species. We evolved past those abilities. We thought we'd evolved past the need for them. We were wrong. So yes, we follow human leadership, because the alternative is extinction." On Earth, an elderly Hyan sat in a garden, watching the sunset. He'd retired years ago, but he still kept track of galactic affairs. His successor as ambassador had sent him the latest reports. Humanity now commanded defense forces across 70% of council space. Human engineers maintained critical infrastructure on 300 worlds. Human researchers led breakthrough projects in every major field. Human mediators resolved disputes between council species. The galaxy ran on human expertise, human decision-making, human problem-solving. Did we win? His granddaughter asked, sitting beside him. Hyan considered the question. We survived. We proved our worth. We saved the species that rejected us. I'm not sure that's the same as winning, but they respect us now. his granddaughter said. They listen to us. They follow our leadership. They fear us, Hyon corrected gently. Or more accurately, they fear being without us. That's not respect. It's dependency. Is that bad? Hyon watched the sun sink below the horizon. I don't know. We didn't seek this position. We just wanted to help, to contribute, to be valued partners. They rejected that, so we walked away. And when we came back, it was on our